The protagonist Xue Yang was reborn with the system in 2011, and later coached the Chinese League One team Tianjin Wei. When other teams make big signings, Tianjin Wei is cultivating young players. When other teams switch from exporting to domestic sales, Tianjin Wei has already started operating players to stay abroad. When other teams were declining, Tianjin Wei made a fortune by selling players. Unconsciously, after a few years, everyone will look back. The players trained by Tianjin Wei have not only spread throughout the Chinese Super League, but also throughout Europe. Keywords of the novel. I am the head coach without a pop-up window, I am the head coach. Download the complete text, and read the latest chapter of The Head Coach. Chapter 1. Xue Yang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Xue Yang stood outside the KTV box, holding the doorknob and taking a deep breath. Just as he was about to enter, suddenly someone patted his shoulder. Xue Yang, said the person behind him. Xue Yang turned his head and felt that the person in front of him was very familiar. Soon he remembered that he was his old classmate Xinche. Xinche, it's you. You scared me. Xue Yang greeted with a smile. How's it going lately? Xinche chatted in frustration. It's okay. Xue Yang replied with a bitter smile. Let's go in. Xinche didn't chase deeply and walked into the private room with Xue Yang. Xue Yang came here today because it was a gathering of old high school classmates. And Xinche is also Xue Yang's old classmate. In fact, they were not familiar during high school. But after many years of meeting, it still made Xue Yang very happy. Recently, Xue Yang has had a very difficult time. I came today hoping to meet my old classmates and ease my frustration. Xue Yang has had a dream since childhood, which is to become a professional football player. During his high school years, his classmates were more fond of basketball, and Yao Ming made more and more Chinese people fall in love with basketball. In the past, every lunch break, high school students would come to the restaurant outside the school to watch the NBA while eating fried rice. At that time, the business of that restaurant was also very popular. It is said that this restaurant has not collapsed until now. Back in the day, basketball became a favorite sport among students because of Yao Ming's foothold in the NBA. During high school, the basketball court was always full, but unfortunately, Xue Yang was different from others. Although Xue Yang occasionally watches NBA, he loves football more. The reason why I fell in love with football is precisely because of the 2002 World Cup in Japan and South Korea. For the first time in the history of the Chinese team participating in the World Cup, Xue Yang had the dream of becoming a professional football player. But reality is too cruel, Xue Yang doesn't have such talent. Since he couldn't become a professional football player, Xue Yang changed his dream and worked hard towards becoming a professional coach. Fortunately, his studies were good and he later studied abroad in Germany and went to the renowned Cologne Sports University in football. I graduated in 2009 and then returned to China. After all, I returned from studying abroad. Although it won't lead to crazy grabbing, there are still clubs that want him. In this way, he entered Tianjin Songjiang, which was still in the second division at the time, and served as a coach for the youth team in Tianjin Songjiang. However, after truly entering a professional club, Xue Yang realized that he was too naive. He is arrogant and thinks that his future is bright, and he even fantasizes about the scene of coaching the Chinese Super League in the future. Unfortunately, coaching is still highly dependent on qualifications. After leaving Songjiang, Tianjin, he joined Taizhou Yuanda as a coach for the reserve team. But just recently, Taizhou Yuanda disbanded. Xue Yang has now become an unemployed wanderer, which has made him very frustrated in his heart. I have worked hard for so many years, from being full of energy to now feeling disheartened. Xue Yang was even wondering if he was not suitable for this profession. Since becoming an unemployed wanderer, Xue Yang has been idle at home for a period of time. So when Xinche asked a question before, his face was so ugly. After Xue Yang and Xue walked in, they looked at familiar faces. Xue Yang, who was originally in a bad mood, couldn't help but smile. It's really been a long time since we last met. Xue Yang has been in Taizhou, Jiangsu due to work reasons. It's very difficult to meet, that is, he doesn't have a job now. The plan for this classmate gathering is to go to KTV to sing, and then everyone will go to a restaurant to have a meal in the evening. But just after singing, several people left. Because they already have families, which also makes Xue Yang feel a bit sad. He estimates that he is one of the few single aristocrats here, and Xue Yang's social circle is full of content about old classmates sharing their children. Later that evening, everyone came to a restaurant where Xue Yang was too familiar, located near high school. I didn't expect that after so many years, this restaurant is still here. Everyone is an adult now, so it's inevitable that we had a meal. Xue Yang went to the restroom midway and was about to open the door when he returned to the private room when he suddenly heard an old classmate talking inside. Xue Yang seems to be a football coach. You have to earn a lot of money. I heard that the Chinese Super League spent a lot of money a few years ago, said old classmate A. Originally, they were secretly chatting about Xue Yang. Xue Yang was very mysterious in their eyes because he was out of town all year round. And the football coaching profession is too new. Xue Yang may be the only coach they know. Make a lot of money. A while ago, I saw on news that a Chinese Super League team won the championship in the first year and disbanded in the second year. It's like a joke. Xue smiled and said. Ah, there's this matter, said another old classmate B. I'm X. Although basketball has declined a lot since Yao Ming retired, it is still top-notch in Asia at least. I read a news before that we can't even play in Syria, said the old classmate A. Syria still has the heart to play football? Old classmate B asked curiously. Upon hearing the words of his old classmates in the room, Xue Yang couldn't help but burst into a bitter smile. He really wanted to enter into a rebuttal, but he was powerless to do so. Because Xue Yang knows what they are saying is true, since the 2002 World Cup, Chinese football has been declining. Players are also declining from generation to generation, and the Football Association has issued the U23 policy for this. I hope that with this policy, young players can have more playing opportunities. In fact, in Xue Yang's view, the starting point of this policy is good. As for the team that Xue said would dissolve after winning the championship, it must be Jiangsu Suning. After calming down for a moment, Xue Yang walked in. Seeing Xue Yang come in, the old classmates quickly concluded the conversation. Xue Yang was originally in a good mood, but after hearing his old classmates' discussion, his mood became depressed again. When he was in high school, his hobbies were different from his classmates. Basketball is the most popular in his high school, and there are even grade-level basketball games. As for football, little attention is paid to it. Although there are also many people on the football field, they all run on the nearby track. On the football field, either it's a couple or a dog walker. Xue Yang returned home drunk because he had no job left. So he returned to his hometown and temporarily stayed with his parents. At this point, his parents had already fallen asleep, and Xue Yang returned to his own room. Lying in bed and unable to fall asleep, he felt like he had failed in the past. Entering the path of football with a dream in mind, but he has achieved nothing for so many years. Not to mention making contributions to Chinese football, he didn't even earn much money. Other people at his age may have already bought houses and cars. He doesn't even have a job now, and he feels very bitter thinking about it. And this classmate gathering made Xue Yang, who was already in a bad mood, even more upset. Soon, his drowsiness grew stronger and he kept silently reciting in his mind. I really want to be a good coach. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Commander-in-Chief System, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Commander-in-Chief System 1. The next day, Xue Yang woke up in a daze and slowly widened his eyes. I haven't sat up yet. I did drink a bit too much yesterday. Finally, he struggled to sit up and stretched lazily. Xue Yang instinctively looked around his room, but there was no immediate reaction. But suddenly he had a strange feeling, so he looked at his own room again. It's indeed my own room, but I don't know why it feels so new. This house was bought by his parents during his high school years, and this room is also the one he lived in during his high school years. Now it can be considered an old house, but suddenly it feels so much newer than yesterday. Xue Yang hesitated and stood up from the bed, as he was still not very clear-headed when he was drunk. He began to walk out of the room. He just took 2 steps and glanced at the table inside. And there was a small mirror on the table, and when he saw it, he suddenly froze. My face is still my own, but it is clearly much younger. He quickly walked towards the table and then picked up the mirror. He widened his eyes and looked at himself in the mirror, and for an instant, Xue Yang's mind went blank. Because the self in the mirror is clearly young, it is simply when I was young. After a moment of silence, he quickly took out his own phone. However, he suddenly realized that his phone had also changed, and his Xiaomi phone had become Meizu. Xue Yang remembers clearly that he had indeed used Meizu phones before, but it was a long time ago. He quickly untied the screen of his phone and looked at time for the first time. June 19, 2011. Surprisingly, Xue Yang was stunned when he traveled 11 years ago. No matter who encounters such a situation, they will be unable to accept reality. Soon Xue Yang recovered, and then he closed his eyes, recalling what he was doing at that moment. He quickly remembered, and if he remembered correctly, he should still be working in the youth team in Songjiang, Tianjin. Xue Yang thought about his previous life and realized that his life was definitely a failure. So he was thinking about whether to switch careers in this life and not be a football coach anymore. He can use his memory to find a promising career. But at this moment, a voice appeared in Xue Yang's mind. Binding. Upon hearing this sound, Xue Yang was truly startled. Binding successful. Welcome to the main system. When Xue Yang saw the plot happening to him in the novel, his mind went blank. System. But why is it the head coach system? Xue Yang asked. Due to the host's goal of becoming an excellent coach in the final moments, a coach system was generated. The coach system replied. Upon hearing the system's response, Xue Yang regretfully closed his eyes. Continuously blaming oneself, why say coach? Saying that the tycoon doesn't smell good. Dear host. Do you want to view the coach's system interface? The system asked. Then open it and take a look. Xue Yang replied. As soon as Xue Yang finished speaking, an interface appeared in his mind. There are a total of 7 buttons on this interface, and their positions are a bit like 5 cakes, except that there is an additional button on both sides. The 3 buttons on both sides are from top to bottom. Seeing so many buttons, Xue Yang showed a puzzled expression. He first looked at the button on the upper left, which had a pattern of a person's half-body. Xue Yang used his consciousness to click on this button, and the screen quickly transitioned to another interface. After entering this interface, many players will be displayed. Dear host. What you are currently viewing is the lineup interface, the system suddenly introduced. The lineup interface will display all players in the host formation. The player in my team. I'm not the head coach yet. Xue Yang said in confusion. Oh, by the way. I am now the coach of Tianjin Songjiang U19. Quickly, Xue Yang remembered, and after thinking it through, he looked at the players in the lineup interface. Aren't these the players of the youth team? He looked at the information of all the players and could see their information. There are names, birthdays, nationalities, locations, abilities, and potential, respectively. Can Xue Yang then try clicking on the player to see if he can see detailed information? Sure enough, you can click on the player's profile picture. In addition to the previous items, it also displays the birthplace, style, reverse foot, height, weight, preferred foot, international reputation, characteristics, salary, and hexagonal attributes. The hexagonal attributes include speed, shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, and strength. As for other attributes, they cannot be seen, which makes Xue Yang a little regretful. How can we only see these 6 attributes? What about the other attributes? Xue Yang asked. Other properties cannot be viewed, the system replied. This makes Xue Yang very regretful, but in fact, having these 6 attributes is also acceptable. Xue Yang looked at the information of these young players and couldn't help but sigh deeply. I didn't feel much in my past life, but now I look back. It really surprised Xue Yang that he didn't even have a player with potential exceeding 60 points. And the ability value is also very low, either over 30 or over 40 abilities. Then Xue Yang clicked on the button in the upper right corner, and the pattern on this button was a portrait wearing glasses. Dear host, what you are currently viewing is the employee interface, the system continued. The staff interface will display all team employees. After Xue Yang clicked in, he found that there was no one around. How come there are only so few people? Xue Yang wondered. He knew that Tianjin Songjiang could not have only such a small number of people, even though the current Tianjin Songjiang is still in China. As the host is currently in the youth team, only the staff of the youth team can be displayed. If the host is in the first team, all the staff in the team will be displayed. The system replied. Xue Yang looked at these staff members, similar to the previous players. It will also display name, age, nationality, position, ability, and potential. After clicking on the avatar, you can see detailed information, including place of birth, birthday, and detailed attributes. The attributes include defensive training, offensive training, technical training, as well as cooperation with young players, personnel management, judgment of player potential, abilities, and other attributes. Compared to players, it is more detailed, which is much more convenient. Xue Yang looks very familiar. Why is he so like a football manager? Then there was the button in the middle left, which had a scroll pattern. Xue Yang clicked on it. Dear host. The task interface you are currently viewing. The system explained. The task interface will display all hosts' current tasks, as well as completed tasks and achievements. After clicking on it, the interface displayed was blank, and Xue Yang instantly realized that he didn't have a task yet. At the top of the interface, there are 2 buttons, which are incomplete and completed. Xue Yang knows this without asking, as anyone who frequently plays games can understand. Then Xue Yang stepped out and clicked on the button in the middle right, which had a pattern of a package. Dear host. You are currently viewing the prop interface, the system continued. The prop interface will display all the props owned by the host. After clicking on it, it will also be blank. After all, Xue Yang has just obtained the system. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Commander-in-Chief System, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Commander-in-Chief System, 2. Next, Xue Yang clicked on the button at the bottom left, and the pattern of this button is a hurdle crossing. Dear host, what you are currently viewing is the training interface, the system explained. The training interface can help players improve their strength. After entering the training interface, there are a total of 3 large boxes on the left, middle, and right. Xue Yang's first reaction was a bit confused. Didn't he mention the training interface? Why are there only 3 boxes? Then he clicked on the box on the left and an interface popped up. There are a total of 5 options above, namely dribbling, defense, passing, shooting, and free kick. Xue Yang looked more familiar and then clicked on the dribbling option. Isn't this the training for FIFA games? But soon Xue Yang noticed the difference. In FIFA games, training involves selecting players first and then selecting training programs. But now it's time to choose the training program first, and there are only 3 boxes. Quickly, Xue Yang chose the Race Against Time training program, which can improve ball control, dribbling, agility, and speed. After clicking the OK button, I returned to the interface of the previous 3 boxes. However, the box on the left displayed the training item of competing for minutes and multiple seconds, and Xue Yang subsequently fell into confusion. And then Xue Yang asked in confusion, "Dear host, after selecting the training program, you can select the trained players in the training box. The system prompts." Upon hearing the system statement, Xue Yang finally saw a Select Player button under the Race Against Time training box. Then he clicked the Select Player button, and a pop-up interface appeared where all the players in the formation were displayed. So Xue Yang randomly selected a player, thinking that selecting a player would automatically close the interface. But this time he was wrong. After selecting a player, the screen did not close. He was curious and chose the second player, who could also choose. Can this training be done with multiple people? Xue Yang asked curiously. Yes. Multiple players can be selected for each training, but the more players trained, the worse the training effect, the system replied. That is to say, if only one player is selected, then that player will improve quickly. If 10 players are selected, then these 10 players' abilities will grow slowly. Does that mean? Xue Yang understood and asked. Yes. Xue Yang understood now that this training interface is different from previous generations of FIFA. The training is somewhat similar to that of the FIFA 21 generation, but there are also some differences. I randomly selected a few players. After all, these young players have limited potential. Under the 3 training boxes, a Confirm Training button appears. Then the training box turned gray, and Xue Yang was still looking forward to it. This player has improved his abilities, but there hasn't been much change. Why didn't you react? Did I do something wrong? Xue Yang asked in confusion. After confirming the training on the training interface, the player will not directly improve their abilities, but will accelerate their ability improvement in the following time. The system replied. Xue Yang understood a little and roughly understood the meaning of the system. That is to say, this training is not like directly improving players' strength in FIFA games, Xue Yang said. It's like I choose to race against time, and in the future, I will increase my dribbling, ball control, agility, and speed. How long will this training last? Xue Yang asked again. After each training program is determined, it will persist until the 1st of the next month. However, once the training is determined, it cannot be modified and can only be modified until the 1st of the next month. The system continued to explain. Xue Yang now fully understood that although this training function is not as strong as FIFA games, but overall, it's still pretty good and can be considered a minor cheat. Subsequently, Xue Yang clicked on the button at the bottom right of the main page, and the pattern on this button looked a bit like a vegetable basket. Dear host, you are currently viewing the mall interface, the system continued. The host can purchase items on the mall interface. After entering the mall interface, it feels a bit like a mall for mobile games. The box above each prop is a pattern, and below is the name and price of the prop. Firstly, the first 5 props are the first Planet Scout, second Planet Scout, 3-Star Scout, 4th Planet Scout, and 5th Planet Scout. The host is currently viewing regular scouts, and after using this type of scout, they will bring several young players aged 15 to 17 on the 1st of next month. The system introduces scouts. A 1-Planet Scout will bring 1 to 2 young generals, a 2-Planet Scout will bring 2 to 3 young generals, a 3-Star Scout will bring 3 to 4 young generals, a 4-Planet Scout will bring 4 to 5 young generals, and a 5-Planet Scout will bring 5 to 6 young generals. Tip: the higher the star rating of a scout, the more players they bring, and their potential is also higher, with a maximum potential of 99 points. Xue Yang heard the introduction of the system and understood that it should be similar to the scouts in FIFA games. And behind these 5 scouts, there are still scouting props, but they are different from the previous 5. These 4 scouts are Junior Special Scouts, Intermediate Special Scouts, Senior Special Scouts, and Top Special Scouts. The current host is viewing Special Scouts, which are the same as regular scouts. After use, they will bring young players aged 15 to 17 on the 1st of the following month. But unlike regular scouts, Special Scouts can only bring 1 young player, but their relative potential will be higher. Junior Special Scouts can bring players with at least 75 talents, Intermediate Special Scouts can bring players with at least 80 talents, Advanced Special Scouts can bring players with at least 85 talents, and Top Special Scouts can bring players with at least 90 talents. Upon hearing the system's introduction to Special Scouts, it is indeed better than regular scouts. Xue Yang knows that if he can achieve a 75-point ability, he can already play for downstream teams in the 5 major leagues. If the ability reaches 80 points, we can establish ourselves in the middle and upper reaches of the 5 major leagues in the future. As for the 85-point ability and 90-point ability, it goes without saying that they can fully establish themselves in strong teams and even wealthy families. Later, Xue Yang looked at the prices of these scouts. A scout on 1 planet earned 20 points, a scout on 2 planets earned 50 points, a scout on 3 stars earned 100 points, a scout on 4 planets earned 250 points, and a scout on 5 planets earned 600 points. And Junior Special Scouts earned 300 points, Intermediate Special Scouts earned 600 points, Advanced Special Scouts earned 1200 points, and Top Special Scouts earned 3000 points. How do I get this point? Xue Yang saw that these scouts were extremely greedy, so he quickly asked the system a question. Points can only be obtained by completing tasks and achievements, the system replied. After reading these scout props, Xue Yang continued to look back. Then there is the staff scout, and there is only one type. Previously, when Xue Yang saw the employee interface, he understood the meaning of this employee scout. The price of this employee scout is 100 points. Next are training cards, which are double training cards and triple training cards. The host is currently viewing a training card, and using a training card will improve the training speed. The system explained. And these props are all the props in the mall, and Xue Yang can only look at them. Because he doesn't have any points in his hand, he can't afford the cheapest props. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Plan. Now Xue Yang has finished reading 6 interfaces, leaving only the button in the middle, which is also the largest in volume. The pattern of this button looks like a blackboard, which Xue Yang couldn't guess. And this button is gray, he can't click it no matter how hard he clicks. Dear host. The host is currently viewing the tactical panel interface, the system continued. The host can view players' tactical adaptation, coordination, physical fitness, and status through the tactical panel interface. But why can't I order it? Xue Yang asked in confusion. The tactical panel function is only open to the main coach. As the host is currently only a regular coach, they cannot access the tactical panel interface, the system replied. The system's response made Xue Yang very helpless, as he wanted to become the head coach. But he is still so young and his qualifications are not up to the level of a head coach. However, now that Xue Yang has a system, he is starting to have greater ambitions. So he had the idea of leaving Songjiang, Tianjin, thinking that he came to Songjiang mainly because he was from Tianjin. His home is also in Tianjin, and Tianjin Tada doesn't like him. He just arrived at Tianjin Songjiang, which was still in the 2nd division at the time, but even the 2nd division team wouldn't want him as a young coach. He could only serve as a coach for the youth team. Moreover, the current head coach of Tianjin Songjiang is still a foreign teacher, Belgian coach de Vilde. It is worth mentioning that he has also served as the head coach of Hunan Xiangtao in the future. Moreover, Tianjin Songjiang has already been promoted to China League 1 this season, and he has no chance to coach the first team, so he is thinking about whether to leave Tianjin Songjiang. If China League 2 fails, then it will be China Championship. With the system in place, Xue Yang is very confident. He has confidence in leading the team to the stage of the Chinese Super League, and Xue Yang even began to fantasize about the future. Perhaps sensing Xue Yang's ambition, a prompt suddenly sounded in his mind. Trigger task. Become a head coach reward. Junior Special Scout X1, 30 points. Triggering a new task certainly made Xue Yang very happy. But the current situation has also left Xue Yang very confused. Due to the successful binding of the host to the commander.in.chief system, a newbie gift package will be rewarded. Do you want to activate the newbie gift package? The system suddenly prompted. Of course it needs to be opened. Xue Yang quickly replied. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Samsung Scout X1. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Junior Special Scout X1. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Intermediate Special Scout X1. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Staff Scout X3. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Eye of Fire and Golden Eyes X3. Xue Yang was very excited to see these rewards. He didn't expect the rewards to be so generous. It's just a prop that he hasn't seen before in the mall. That's the last dazzling moment, he doesn't know what it is. What is this fiery-eyed golden eye? Xue Yang asked. The function of a keen eye is to view detailed information about a non-team player, including attributes, abilities, potential, and so on. The system replied. Upon hearing the introduction of the system, Xue Yang's eyes lit up and he realized that this eye-catching item was very useful. Why isn't this prop in the mall? Fire-Eye Golden Eyes can only be obtained through tasks and achievements, and the mall does not open this item, the system replied. Then Xue Yang looked at the scout, and the question came again. After using the scout, where were the players? So Xue Yang asked again. If I use this Samsung Scout, where are these players? Xue Yang asked. Players will come to the host club in some form, the system replied. If I leave the club, will these players come with me? Xue Yang asked with a hint of hope. Of course not. If you want to continue coaching this player, you can only achieve it through a transfer, the system replied. Upon hearing the system's response, Xue Yang began to hesitate. Because his goal is to become the head coach, he is considering whether to resign. If a scout is used at this time, the player will stay in Songjiang, Tianjin. If you want to use it then, you may have to transfer, so it's better to wait until the future. Xue Yang came to the club to prepare for today's training class. He had already planned to resign upon joining the team. But when he really arrived at the club, he hesitated a bit. At this moment, the young players were chatting, and Xue Yang was not far away, so he heard it. Next month is the Copa America, who do you think will ultimately win? A player asked a friend next to him. What do you think of Argentina's home court? Argentina must be the champion. This player is clearly an Argentine fan. Xue Yang couldn't help but laugh when he heard their conversation. Argentina won the championship and was eliminated by Uruguay in the quarterfinals. Xue Yang is a staunch football fan, and of course, he also pays close attention to games like the Copa America. He remembers this Copa America, where Argentina, as the host country, successfully advanced to the group stage. But they met Uruguay in the quarterfinals and were eventually eliminated by Uruguay. And he remembered that Uruguay won the championship in the end. Xue Yang recalled for a moment and soon remembered. Then he froze again, and suddenly a thought surged into his mind. Yeah. I know the results of these competitions. Xue Yang could have used these memories to exchange for a large amount of funds for himself, and then came up with another bold idea. Why not just buy a team? Xue Yang had an idea. Thinking of this, Xue Yang instantly regained his energy and approached the senior management to apply for a long vacation. But his request was directly rejected. After all, Xue Yang took a full month off. How could the club let him go? So he had to think of another way. Then he remembered a person, who was his brother Xue Yang. Xue Yang is not his own brother, but the son of his father's sister. The two of them are only 3 years old apart and have been playing together since childhood. And both of them like football, but his brother didn't choose the path of football. Anyway, the result of the competition is in Xue Yang's mind, and it doesn't really matter whether he goes abroad or not. Just find someone you can trust to go abroad, and his brother Xue Yang is undoubtedly the best candidate. And if you really buy a club in the future, you definitely need someone to trust to manage it. After graduating from Xue Yang University, he went to start a business with his classmates. However, despite having a beautiful idea, the reality is very cruel. After persisting for a few years, the company still went bankrupt. And during this period, he had conflicts with his classmates, and they never contacted him again after the company went bankrupt. Although Xue Yang was not successful, he at least accumulated some management experience. So Xue Yang contacted Xue Yang and expressed his thoughts. After learning about Xue Yang's plan, Xue Yang's first reaction was that it was not very reliable. So he wanted to refuse, but at Xue Yang's repeated requests, he agreed to go to South America. Anyway, recently he has been too idle, so I think he is going to South America to travel for relaxation. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Acquisition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Acquisition. Xue Yang carefully recalled this year's Copa America, but unfortunately he was a year late. If it could have been a year earlier, we would have missed the World Cup in South Africa. There were many unpopular players in that World Cup, and they could definitely make a lot of money. Of course, the Copa America is also possible, but in recent years, the influence of the Copa America has been decreasing, and there is a reason for this. Firstly, there is their competition system, with a total of 12 teams participating, of which 8 teams advanced to the next round. That is to say, only 4 teams will be eliminated in the group stage, and this format is a bit strange. Then comes the time for the Copa America, which will be held in July. You should know that most of the key players are playing in Europe, and at this time they have just finished their vacation. So their state did not adjust to the best, which somewhat affected their preparedness. Finally, there is pressure from Europe, as the new season in Europe is about to begin. Holding the Copa America now may lead to injuries. Xue Yang speculates that the head coaches of the 5 major European leagues are expecting their national teams to be eliminated as soon as possible. If I were to get injured, it would be too unlucky. In Xue Yang's memory, the teams that advanced to the semi-finals of this Copa America were not considered traditional strong teams. Both Brazil and Argentina were eliminated in the quarter-finals. The final match between Uruguay and Paraguay also made Xue Yang feel a bit sad. Because both Uruguay and Paraguay have a European style, while those South American style teams have been eliminated one after another. This is also a very awkward thing, as the Copa America has started unconsciously. Sports channels far away in China also broadcast this event live. The top contenders for this Copa America championship are the Brazilian team, which has won 2 consecutive championships. Then there is the host team Argentina, which are the biggest favorites to win the championship. But in Xue Yang's memory, Argentina and Brazil were not really good in the group stage. It seems like they both have 1 win and 2 draws, but on the contrary, Colombia and Chile have achieved a record of 2 wins and 1 draw. Originally, Xue Yang was skeptical, but he soon realized that Xue Yang's predictions were all correct. He went from his previous doubts to shock and later admiration, and just the group stage made them a big profit. Then it came to the quarter-finals, and the quarter-finals of this Copa America were also eerie. Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia, the four strong teams in Xue Yang's heart, were all eliminated in the end. In the semi-finals, Uruguay and Paraguay laughed until the end, and in the end, Uruguay won the championship by defeating Paraguay. This trip to South America made Xue Yang very excited. He never thought before that money could come so easily. He earned a whopping $12 million on this trip to South America, and he couldn't believe his experience this month. Xue Yang's first step has been completed, and the next step is the plan for the second step. The second step of the plan is to establish a company, which is definitely entrusted to Xue Yang. Xue Yang has no intention of managing the club, he plans to have Xue Yang manage the club in the future. Then comes the final plan, which is to acquire a club. In fact, Xue Yang hopes to buy a team from Tianjin Wei in his heart. Tianjin doesn't have to think about it anymore, and he can't afford to buy it. Besides Tianjin, there are only two targets within the Tianjin area. One is his current Tianjin Songjiang, and the second is the Tianjin Locomotive. However, the Tianjin Locomotive is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Railways, so Xue Yang set his sights on the Songjiang River in Tianjin. This season, Tianjin Songjiang has been promoted to the Chinese Super League. At the beginning of the season, the club's senior management said in an interview that Tianjin Songjiang's goal this season is to upgrade to the Chinese Super League. But so many seasons have passed, and Tianjin Songjiang ranks very low. Currently ranked third to last in China League 1, although there is no pressure to avoid relegation, upgrading is definitely impossible. And after being promoted to China League 1, the team's expenses also exceeded the expectations of the management. At the beginning of the season, in order to enhance the team's strength, 3 foreign players were signed through trial training, and after a season, 2 of them requested a salary increase. In this situation, the investors in Tianjin Songjiang have already retreated somewhat. This year's expenses are completely different from the expenses during the previous period of China League 2. Since upgrading to China League 1, the club's expenses have increased sharply. So in September, the Finger Network company founded by Xue Yang and Xue Yang proposed an acquisition to Tianjin Songjiang. And of course, Xue Yang came forward, and Xue Yang did not show much presence. The transfer fee was not as high as imagined, and the final transfer fee was set at 20 million. Xue Yang and Xue Yang have fully controlled Tianjin Songjiang, and Xue Yang's plan has now been successful. At first, this number was astronomical for Xue Yang, but now he is using so much money to buy the club. Of course, he also knows in his heart that maintaining the club costs a lot. And we also need to recruit players next season, so we definitely need some money. Finally, he successfully acquired Tianjin Songjiang, and suddenly Xue Yang felt a bit tight-handed. During the negotiation process, Xue Yang hesitated a bit. What's wrong with this money? There doesn't seem to be much future for playing football in China. The acquisition has now been completed, but Xue Yang plans to announce the news of the acquisition of Tianjin Songjiang only after the end of the season. At the moment when the contract was signed, Xue Yang's head coach system suddenly issued a prompt in his mind. Due to changes in host identity, the lineup interface has been updated. Upon hearing the system prompt, Xue Yang understood that he should be able to see the first team players. So he eagerly entered the lineup interface and looked at the first team lineup information of Tianjin Songjiang in detail. But later on, Xue Yang was greatly disappointed, no wonder he only ranked third from the bottom of China League 1. The overall strength is really a bit poor. First of all, there are 3 foreign players in the formation. They are Estonian center-back David Lon, who previously played in Russia. At the beginning of the season, I came to Tianjin Songjiang for a trial and ultimately stayed there successfully. But his strength is really average, with only 63 points of ability. This ability as a foreign aid is indeed a bit lacking, but at that time Tianjin Songjiang was too short of center-backs. Then there are Slovenian striker Rodic and Brazilian striker Juniors. Both of them have played football in China before, with Rodic playing for Shanghai Shenhua. Their strength is 66 points and 64 points respectively. As promoted horses, it is already good for Tianjin Songjiang to find these two foreign players. But these three foreign aid players, Xue Yang is somewhat disdainful. He hopes to bring in more capable foreign players to help the team upgrade to the Chinese Super League as soon as possible. As for local players, they are even worse. There are really not many players that Xue Yang likes. Only a few are considered acceptable. First of all is centre-back Yu Rui. He joined Shanghai SIPG in the future, but he actually only has 62 potential points and currently only has 54 ability points. Then there is Wu Bo, wearing a 10 jersey. He once studied abroad in Hungary and can be considered a top local player in the team. He has a 58-point ability, but there is no room for improvement anymore. Next is left winger Xue Yang, who has previously played abroad in Portugal and Norway and currently has 56 points of ability. Seeing the level of the players, Xue Yang was very disappointed. The possibility of such a lineup being promoted is really low, and changes must be made. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Arrival of Young Generals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The arrival of young generals. The lineup of Tianjin Songjiang is even worse than Xue Yang thought, although foreign players are leading the team in terms of strength. But in fact, that's all, so in the new season, it's definitely necessary to switch to foreign players. And as far as Xue Yang knows, there are foreign players who want a raise now. It's a perfect opportunity to sell them, but of course Xue Yang knows that it may not sell for much money. After dealing with them, Xue Yang will find a way to buy foreign aid. In fact, he had already planned for the current situation in Songjiang, Tianjin. It is definitely impossible to buy famous foreign aid. They cannot have a liking for Tianjin Songjiang, and with the current financial situation of Tianjin Songjiang, even if they want to come to Tianjin Songjiang, they cannot afford it. The hope of picking up leaks is not very high, even if Xue Yang knows a few stars who are not doing well now. But even if they don't live well, they won't come to China League One to play. After careful consideration, Xue Yang set his sights on Brazil, with a target of players aged 27 to 30. Go find those less famous players. Xue Yang now has fiery eyes and golden eyes props, so he is not afraid of being mistaken. Of course, it may be necessary to choose from the Brazilian second division team, as they may be interested in Tianjin Songjiang. The players in the Brazilian Serie A are probably not interested in the Chinese Serie A unless they offer amazing contracts. But the problem is that the finances of Tianjin Songjiang have not reached the point where Xue Yang is squandering. So it's best to look for teams in the Brazilian second division, or even lower level teams. This is quite difficult. Fortunately Xue Yang has a keen eye. Maybe we can really find a loophole, and Xue Yang doesn't expect players with over 80 abilities. If their abilities exceed 70, they can accept it. And next is the scouts. Xue Yang plans to use these scouts. The previous system introduction was very clear, and after using the scout, it will return on the 1st of next month, and it will still be through some form. Firstly, Xue Yang used Samsung Scouts, and he remembered that Samsung Scouts would bring 3 to 4 players. Are you sure you want to use Samsung Scouts? The system asked. Make sure to use it. Xue Yang replied. Please select the player's nationality. I didn't expect to be able to choose a nationality. Xue Yang didn't even think about it. Huaxiao. Of course it's Huaxiao. Please select the range type, the system continued to ask. This confused Xue Yang a bit. What kind of scope and type? What are the types of this range? He asked in reverse. The scope is divided into 8 types, including any, technical genius, winger, physically strong, midfield organization, attacking player, defensive player, and goalkeeper. The system replied. Upon hearing the system's response, Xue Yang instantly reacted. Isn't this the type of FIFA game? He is also a veteran player of FIFA, and Xue Yang has been playing since FIFA 17. He is too clear about these, even summarizing the characteristics of each type. Firstly, it goes without saying anything, of course, players who can bring in any position. The type of technical genius usually brings players in winger, striker, and midfield positions. The type of winger, as the name suggests, refers to the position of a winger, sometimes even bringing forward. The type of physical strength is often chosen by Xue Yang. This type of player will have better physical fitness. It can bring in full backs, center backs, midfielders, center backs, and even wingers, and there is a chance to bring in high center forwards. When playing FIFA, Xue Yang particularly likes high center forward. Then comes the midfield organization type, which can bring in midfield, and center midfield. Offensive players can bring midfielders, wingers, and forwards, while defensive players can bring full backs, center backs, and midfielders. And the type of goalkeeper goes without saying, it can only bring goalkeeper players. Xue Yang thought for a moment and ultimately chose the type of strong body. As a football player, physical fitness is very important, even in China. Choose a type of strong body. Next is the junior special scout, who can bring high potential players. Are you sure you want to use a junior special scout? The system asked. Make sure to use it. Xue Yang replied. Please select the player's nationality. Huaxiao. Please select a range type. Midfield organization type. In fact, the Tianjin Songjiang first team has many midfielders. But his strength is actually average, so he thought it over and decided to have a midfielder. Then comes the final intermediate special scout, who is currently the best scout in Xue Yang's hands. Are you sure you want to use intermediate special scouts? The system asked. Make sure to use it. Xue Yang replied. Please select the player's nationality. Huaxiao. Please select a range type. Wing type. In the end, Xue Yang chose the winger with multiple considerations. Firstly, the team does indeed lack wingers, and secondly, it is hoped that this high-potential attacking player. Subsequently, Xue Yang began to wait, looking forward to the arrival of next month. Unconsciously, it arrived on September 30th and he remained awake, waiting for the arrival of October 1st. At the moment of 0 o'clock, Xue Yang's mind rang with a prompt. Samsung Scout has returned. Do you want to check the player information? The system prompts. OK to view. Xue Yang was lucky enough to bring in 4 players this time. But the first player left him unsatisfied, with only 56 potential points. This player must have been eliminated, with a potential of at least 70 points according to Xue Yang's standards. So he has no intention of taking anything with potential below 70 points. 2 of the 4 players did not meet Xue Yang's standards, and this time it was lucky that 2 of them met the standards. Firstly, the first player has 70 potential points. Name. Wang Pan. Nationality. Huaxiao. Origin. Nanjing, Jiangsu. Birthday. August 24, 1994. Height. 1.84 meters. Position. Center back with 10 points. Preferred foot. Right foot. Reverse foot ability. 2 stars, up to 5 stars. Fantastic ability. 2 stars, up to 5 stars. Feature. None. Ability. 47 points. Potential. 70 points. Attribute. 59 points for speed, 22 points for shooting, 32 points for passing, 35 points for dribbling, 48 points for defense, and 67 points for strength. At present, the team is still relatively short of center backs, and the ace came in just in time. Name: Dong Yurong. Nationality: Huaxia. Origin: Nankai, Tianjin. Birthday: February 22, 1995. Height: 1.80 meters. Position: 10 points in the lower back and 7 points in the center midfield. Preferred foot: right foot. Reverse foot ability: 3 stars, up to 5 stars. Fantastic ability: 2 stars, up to 5 stars. Feature: none. Ability: 51 points. Potential: 72 points. Attribute: 52 points for speed, 35 points for shooting, 44 points for passing, 46 points for dribbling, 49 points for defense, and 69 points for strength. These two players are overall very good, and their physical fitness is indeed good. Even the current ability is not high, and the speed is a bit slow. But his potential is good, and if he grows up, he will definitely be a first-class star in the Chinese Super League. One center-back and one midfielder, the team's defense line doesn't need to worry about next season. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Promotion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Promotion. Next are 2 special scouts, which are also the ones that Xue Yang is most concerned about. The junior special scout has returned. Do you want to check the player information the system prompts? OK to view. Name: Lu Luan. Nationality: Huaxia. Origin: HLJ Jishi. Birthday: December 19, 1993. Height: 1.70 meters. Position: 10 points in the front waist and 8 points in the center midfield. Preferred foot: right foot. Reverse foot ability: 3 stars, up to 5 stars. Fantastic ability: 3 stars, up to 5 stars. Feature: none. Ability: 55 points. Potential: 77 points. Attribute: 73 points of speed, 50 points of shooting, 52 points of passing, 55 points of dribbling, 33 points of defense, and 48 points of strength. Now Xue Yang has 1 midfielder and 1 midfielder, and his lineup is becoming more and more comprehensive. The intermediate special scout has returned. Do you want to check the player information the system prompts? OK to view. Name: Jiang Bin. Nationality: Huaxia. Origin: SJZ, Hebei. Birthday: January 27, 1995. Height: 1.76 meters. Position: left winger 10 points, right winger 7 points, forward 4 points. Preferred foot: right foot. Reverse foot ability: 4 stars, up to 5 stars. Fantastic ability: 3 stars, up to 5 stars. Feature: none. Ability: 59 points. Potential: 83 points. Attribute: 82 points for speed, 55 points for shooting, 51 points for passing, 63 points for dribbling, 31 points for defense, and 61 points for strength. One is a midfielder and the other is a winger, both of whom are frontcourt players. Unfortunately, Lu Luan's physical confrontation in the midfield was a bit weak, while winger Jiang Bin's passing was a bit weak. I would like to ask if the features, patterns, and reverse feet are fixed like this. Is there no way to improve them? Xue Yang asked. Through training, there is a chance to improve the technique and reverse foot, but the characteristics cannot be improved through training, the system replied. Is that a characteristic that cannot be changed? Xue Yang continued to ask. When a player's abilities or attributes reach a certain level or meet certain conditions, there is a chance to obtain a certain characteristic. After obtaining the answer he wanted to know, Xue Yang entered the lineup interface. Sure enough, in the lineup interface, I saw the previous few young players. But unlike other players, their boxes are white. On the other hand, the boxes outside these young generals are green, and they are all at the front. Xue Yang looked at these potential new stars and felt very happy. He remembered that there was still a training interface, so he entered the training interface with the intention of improving the abilities of these players. He has already used this training function once before and has a general understanding of it. But what puzzled him was that the original players could be trained, but these young players couldn't choose. Why can't they train? Xue Yang asked in confusion. They haven't signed with the host club yet, so they can't use the training function temporarily, the system replied. Xue Yang finally understood why the outer frames of these generals were green. Turns out they're not even players from Tianjin Wei, no wonder we can't train them. Immediately afterwards, he fell into a confusion about how to sign these players. Previously, the system said it was through some means, but it was not clear. With doubts in mind, he fell into sleep and arrived at the club early after waking up. After arriving at the training ground, team leader Fan Liang found him. Xue Yang. You come to my office, Fan Liang said to Xue Yang. Later, Xue Yang arrived at the team leader's office. He was very puzzled now and didn't know what Fan Liang wanted to do with him. The current situation is that the former head coach of the youth team has resigned, said Fan Liang. Xue Yang was really taken aback by the sudden news. How did Zhang leave his job? Xue Yang was very surprised. Why else, other teams have poached him, Fan Liang said helplessly. You also know that there are relatively few coaches for our Tianjin Wei youth team, so you will temporarily serve as the head coach. Fan Liang stated his goal. It's really fake. Xue Yang was very surprised. In Xue Yang's memory, this incident did not happen. He fell into memories and finally remembered. In his past life, it seems like he has also resigned and gone to other clubs, just like brother Zhang. It turns out that I missed such an opportunity in my past life. Xue Yang. Fan Liang saw him lose focus and called out to him. Don't be too happy too early, this is only temporary. Fan Liang poured cold water on Xue Yang. Oh. I got it, then I'll go work. Even so, Xue Yang is still very happy that he has finally become the head coach. Don't worry yet. I'll give you a task today, Fan Liang quickly called out to Xue Yang. What task is it? Xue Yang asked curiously. Today there are some young players coming for trial, and this matter is up to you, Fan Liang assigned the task. Upon hearing Fan Liang's words, Xue Yang suddenly understood. Perhaps this is some way the system says it. Complete task. Become a head coach reward. Junior Special Scout X1, 30 points. This sudden prompt startled Xue Yang. You should know that he is currently just a temporary head coach for the youth team, and can even be considered to have completed the task. As for this Junior Special Scout, Xue Yang is not in a hurry to use it. After all, it won't be back until the 1st of next month, so it's okay to use it later. Later, Xue Yang arrived at the training ground and received a document from the staff. He flipped through it and found out that it was information about the trial players. He flipped through and indeed saw a familiar avatar, named Dong Yurong. Isn't it the little general I saw in the early morning? He checked one by one, and Wang Pan, Lu Luan, and Jiang Bin were all present. At this point, he really wants to sign them directly, but the form still needs to go. There are a total of 10 players in this trial, and Xue Yang naturally focuses on a few high-potential players. These players will now receive training for the youth team, including playing training matches. Xue Yang intentionally separated these four players, Wang Pan and Jiang Binlan, while Dong Yurong and Lu Luanhong played for the team. Although the blue team has Jiang Bin, who has the highest potential, these two players from the red team are both midfielders. They have one front waist and one back waist, controlling the rhythm of the game very well, causing the red team to control more ball rights, but the problem is that their forward line is too poor. Although there were several opportunities, they all wasted them. Xue Yang, who was promoted to head coach, carefully watched his performance on the field. Although he knows the attributes of these players, he only has 6 attributes. There are many places that Xue Yang is not familiar with, and he needs to learn about these players through matches. Although Lu Luan has higher potential as a midfielder, Dong Yurong performs better in terms of performance. As a midfielder, he has completed his tasks very well. There are no mistakes on the defensive end, but they can also contribute to the organization. Unfortunately, his potential is a bit low. If his potential is higher, he may be able to establish himself in the 5 major leagues. On the blue team side, 2 players are also considered acceptable. Jiang Bin, who only has 83 potential points, did not perform as brilliantly as his potential. Mainly, they couldn't hold the ball, and Jiang Bin didn't have much chance to hold it. In the final match, both sides were 0-0, which Xue Yang did not expect. He thought there would be many goals, but the next step is the outcome of whether to stay or not. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Renaming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Renaming. These 10 players, except for 4 scouts, have very poor skills. Not only is the current ability average, but there is also little potential. In the end, only these 4 players were signed, and then Xue Yang entered the lineup interface. Sure enough, their green frame changed to the same white frame as the others. Then he entered the training interface and was finally able to assign training projects for them. Because he completed a task before, he has 30 points in his hand. So he purchased a double training card and went to the prop interface to use it. This month has just started, so don't waste it now. Xue Yang hopes that these players can grow up as soon as possible, preferably playing in the Chinese League 1 next season. Especially for winger Jiang Bin and midfielder Lu Luan, their potential is so high. The future will be the core players of the team, so Xue Yang plans to assign them more training programs. Strive for one person to practice 2 training projects, and only practice 4 of them. The first thing that must be trained is undoubtedly dribbling, which made Xue Yang lost in thought. Firstly, the first 3 items of each training program are ball control, dribbling, and agility, with only the 4th item being different. Among them are speed, endurance, and strength, all of which are actually very important. Originally, Xue Yang wanted to choose endurance, but he also practiced speed. At present, these 4 players, except for Jiang Bin, are not very fast. Moreover, as a winger, Jiang Bin's speed is not particularly fast. After careful consideration, Xue Yang decided to choose the race against time type. This training program can improve dribbling, ball control, agility, and speed, and all 4 players have been selected. Then came the defense option, where he chose a more comprehensive, advanced defense scenario project. The advanced defense scenario training program can enhance interception, steals, tackles, and defensive awareness. Central defender Wang Pan and midfielder Dong Yurong have been selected, but Xue Yang is actually considering whether to also train Lu Luan. Because Lu Luan can play as a center-back, and the position of midfielder is no longer what it used to be. But after thinking about it, Xue Yang did not choose Lu Luan because the system had previously stated that the fewer players selected, the better the training effect. The last training program selected Advanced Offensive Scene, which can improve shooting, shooting strength, short passing, and attacking position. Winger Jiang Bin and midfielder Lu Luan, so that each player can train in biathlon. Finally, Xue Yang confirmed the training, and this month's training was twice as effective. This made Xue Yang look forward to the arrival of next month, and suddenly he remembered. He was previously prompted to complete the task and was rewarded with a junior special scout, so he chose to use it. "Are you sure you want to use a junior special scout?" the system asked. "Make sure to use it," Xue Yang replied. "Please select the player's nationality. Huaxiao. Please select a range type. Defensive player type." The reason for choosing the defensive player type is because currently there is a midfielder and a winger in the front court. Actually, having a forward is better, but there is no type that can guarantee a forward. If there is another left winger, it would be awkward to choose a defensive player type. Whether it's playing as a center back or a midfielder, there's actually no problem. Both of these positions can be placed in two places. It would be even better if we could have a full back. Xue Yang is becoming more and more confident about next season, as the scouts are already in use. Reminding him of the former staff scout, Xue Yang decisively used the player scout. "Are you sure you want to use the staff scout?" the system asked. "Confirm use. Please select the employee's nationality. Huaxiao. Please select an employee position." Xue Yang looked at all the available positions and suddenly realized that besides coaching, he could also choose scouting. He originally wanted to find players in Brazil, so having a scout would be much more convenient. But he thought about it again, and a Chinese scout was looking for players in Brazil. It's a bit difficult to think about. Anyone who has played FM Football Manager knows that scouts have a national familiarity. So choosing Brazilian nationality is a better choice, but I have already chosen Chinese nationality. So he thought for a moment and decided whether it was better to choose a coach. Assistant coach position. Then there is the second staff scout, and this time we have to choose a scout. "Are you sure you want to use the staff scout?" the system asked. Confirm use. Please select the employee's nationality. Brazil. Please select an employee position. Scout. Next up was the last staff scout, this time still the coach. "Are you sure you want to use the staff scout?" the system asked. Confirm use. Please select the employee's nationality. Huaxiao. Please select an employee position. Defensive coach. To Xue Yang's regret, this staff scout was used too late. If used earlier, these staff would have been in place. So far, all the props in Xue Yang's hand have been used, and the end of this season is getting closer and closer. Xue Yang also needed to talk to Xia Zhong about his plans for next season, and Xia Zhong looked at Xue Yang in confusion. At present, he has no idea what to do next. Managing a football club is something he has never considered. "What's wrong, brother?" Xue Yang called out to Xia Zhong, who was stunned. "Well, it's nothing. I don't know what I should do." Xia Zhong thought for a moment and said, "I don't know what to do. There's so much to do." Xue Yang didn't expect Xia Zhong to say so. "Starting from next year, you will be the general manager of the club, and the future management of the club will be entrusted to you," Xue Yang said. Upon hearing Xue Yang's words, Xia Zhong felt even more stressed. "First of all, let me talk about our next plan," Xue Yang began. "Firstly, it's the name of the club. Starting from next season, we can't call it Tianjin Songjiang," Xue Yang said firmly. "Change your name." Xia Zhong was startled. He never thought before that he would even change his name. In fact, Xue Yang is also a bit worried about this. In his previous life, a team was criticized by fans for renaming. This includes Shanghai Shenhua and Jiangsu Suning, among which Shanghai Shenhua ultimately compromised and continued its name. As for Jiangsu Suning, he was much more determined and ultimately stood on the opposite side of the fans. From then on, Jiangsu Shantian disappeared. So Xue Yang is worried that changing the name will make fans dislike it. "Of course, we need to change our name. Since we have already acquired the team, how can we still call it Tianjin Songjiang?" Xue Yang replied. As for the new name of the team for next season, I have already figured it out, let's call it Tianjin Wei. After careful consideration, Xue Yang decided to choose a neutral name. There is currently no neutral name regulation in Chinese football, but Xue Yang still decided to choose a neutral name. Since the club's name has changed, both the team emblem and jersey need to be changed. Xue Yang didn't expect that there was still such a thing to deal with. You should know that although this season is not over yet, it is already October. It's only 2 months until next year, and there are so many things left. In terms of the team emblem and jersey, I will give you a concept picture when I come back, and you can find someone to design it then. As for something recent, you need to personally appear, Xue Yang said to Xue Yang. After the end of the season, which is November, you need to start a press conference to announce the change of ownership of Tianjin Songjiang next season. Xue Yang started to feel a bit nervous, he didn't expect his task to be so heavy. Xue Yang really has no understanding of managing club affairs. Although Xue Yang doesn't quite understand, at least he needs to be stronger than himself. Xue Yang's idea is to do a good job as the head coach first. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. End of season. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 End of season. The China League One has come to an end, with only the last 3 rounds left. The final round will take place on October 30th, against Guangdong Reziquan. Guangdong Reziquan is also a strong team, currently ranking 3rd in China League One. There is still hope for upgrading, and currently the top 2 on the points table are Dalian Airborne and Guangzhou RF. These 2 future Chinese Super League teams have made Xue Yang truly envious. On the other hand, Tianjin Songjiang ranks 3rd to last on the points table, although only 1 point higher than the 2nd to last. But in reality, Tianjin Songjiang will definitely not be relegated this season. Because next season China League One will expand and add 2 more teams. From the original 14 teams to 16 teams, and the last place on the points table this season. As long as the team defeats the 3rd place team in the relegation playoffs, they can be relegated. That is to say, there may not be any teams relegated this season, and they will continue to play in China League One next season. Now Xue Yang needs to prepare for next season, and it's best to clear out the 3 foreign players first. Their strength cannot meet Xue Yang's needs, and their ability as foreign players is only over 60 points, which is indeed a bit lacking, even though Tianjin Songjiang is still in China League One. Slovenian striker Rodic may be simpler, as he has scored 8 goals in the league so far. He is currently the golden boot of Tianjin Songjiang team, and he has also played in the Chinese Super League. I believe there will be teams who want him. As for Brazilian striker Juniors, he's just average, he only scored 3 goals in the league. Xue Yang can only pray that a team will take him, and the same goes for centre-back David Lon. Now Xue Yang hopes that the league will end soon, and the staff will come on the 1st of next month. Send scouts to Brazil as soon as possible to find people, and the Brazilian league is not far from over. The Brazilian league will play until the end of November, and the Brazilian League One will play until December. As expected by Xue Yang, Tianjin Songjiang lost all in the last 3 rounds of the league. Finally ranked 3rd from the bottom of the points table, while Dalian Airborne and Guangzhou RF both advanced to the top. The time has finally arrived on November 1st, and Xue Yang has been waiting for this day for too long. During this period, he served as the head coach of the youth team, but his work was not much. Because there are not many matches for the youth team, and there is no academic pressure. Nevertheless, Xue Yang's performance is still good, and those 4 young players have become the absolute mainstay of the youth team. Under his coaching, the 4 of them have performed very well. The junior special scout has returned. Do you want to check the player information? The system prompts. OK to view. This junior special scout has finally arrived, and Xue Yang has been waiting for a long time. Although there are outstanding players with potential in the team now, who would think that there are few outstanding players. Name: Zhou Song. Nationality: Huaxia. Origin: Yingtan, Jiangxi. Birthday: May 30, 1994. Height: 1.79 meters. Position: right back with 10 points. Preferred foot: right foot. Reverse foot ability: 3 stars, up to 5 stars. Fantastic ability: 2 stars, up to 5 stars. Feature: none. Ability: 54 points. Potential: 76 points. Attribute: 81 points speed, 24 points shooting, 41 points passing, 52 points dribbling, 52 points defense, 64 points strength. This is a defensive full-back, and Xue Yang is quite satisfied. And the speed is also good, it is a material that can be made. Then 3 more prompts sounded, and Xue Yang saw that the original staff had also arrived. Firstly, there is assistant coach Yu Longjun, who currently has 61 points of ability and 76 points of potential. Next is defensive coach Mu Shujuan, who currently has 63 points of ability and 75 points of potential. Finally, there is the Brazilian scout, which is currently the most vacant position for Xue Yang. This Brazilian is called Leo Gago, with 68 points of ability and 78 points of potential. Xue Yang did not expect this Brazilian scout to have higher abilities and potential. This makes him very puzzled, but high ability is always a good thing. After a month, the 4 young generals have greatly improved their abilities. You should know that Xue Yang used a double training card, which helped them improve their abilities faster. Firstly, there is the center back Wang Pan, whose ability has unexpectedly improved to 53 points. The double training card is really useful, it has improved so much. Then there is Dong Yurong in the back, whose ability has improved to 58 points. Dong Yurong has no problem starting and is already stronger than other midfielders. Next is midfielder Lu Luan, whose ability has improved to 60 points. Compared to the top 2 players, he has not improved much, after all, his abilities are also stronger. Finally, there is Jiang Bin, who has the highest potential, and his ability has unexpectedly improved to 64 points. He is now the strongest player besides foreign players. He is even stronger than a foreign player and is currently the second most capable player in the team. As for these employees, Xue Yang doesn't know in what form they will join. After all, employees don't need to undergo trial training, but he didn't expect that Tianjin Songjiang would recruit coaches. At present, there are a few coaches for the team's youth team, and we need to increase some manpower. As the head coach, Xue Yang ultimately signed both of them. Only 2 Chinese coaches came this time, and as for the Brazilian scout, he didn't even come. Xue Yang was very puzzled in his heart, didn't he say that in some way? Is there any other way? Xue Yang didn't think much and successfully signed a friendly handshake with him and the 2 coaches. Happy cooperation. Xue Yang greeted in a friendly manner. Coach Xue. May I ask if you still lack a coach? Yu Longjun hesitated for a moment before asking Xue Yang. What's wrong? Xue Yang's face was full of question marks. I have a Brazilian friend who is of mixed race and hopes to become a coach for a team in China, Yu Longjun asked awkwardly. What's his name? Xue Yang asked with a suppressed smile. His name is Leo Gago. Sure enough. Surprisingly, there was such a way, which Xue Yang never expected. Sure. But we need an interview, Xue Yang replied. The next day, Leo Gago came to the club, although Yu Longjun said he was of mixed race. But he didn't notice at all. The 2 of them had a brief conversation, and Leo Gago knew Chinese. Mr. Leo Gago. To be honest, I don't think you're suitable to be a coach, Xue Yang said. Upon hearing Xue Yang's words, Leo Gago felt a bit disheartened. When he was in Brazil, he also submitted resumes to several teams. But in the end, they all failed. He thought coming to China would be easier, but it was still very difficult. You may be more suitable for other positions, Xue Yang continued. What position? Leo Gago asked. You will be a good scout, Xue Yang said firmly. If you are willing to serve as a scout, then I hope you can join our team. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Foreign Aid Candidates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Foreign Aid Candidates. In the end, Leo Gago successfully joined the company, which was definitely not initiated by Xue Yang. After all, he is only the head coach of the youth team now, and the first task given to him by the club is to go to Brazil. The goal is to recruit new foreign players for next season, but now the Brazilian league is also coming to an end. There was not much time left for Leo Gago, so Xue Yang narrowed down the scope. Firstly, there is no need to investigate Ba Jia, even if they do, they may not come. The appeal of China League One is too small, and currently the team's finances are not enough to offer high salaries. Then comes age, ranging from 26 to 30 years old. Young players don't need to consider it at all, these young Brazilian players don't want to come to China League One. Even fewer are willing to come to the Chinese Super League, and there are too few young and talented players like Gieds. These young players are all focused on Europe, so there is not much need to examine young players. Next, in terms of position, there is no need to consider full-backs and goalkeepers at all. At present, there are no teams in the Chinese Super League that will buy these two positions. Firstly, there is the center-back. Currently, the team needs a center-back who can stabilize the defense. At that time, his combination with Wang Pan will be the backbone of Tianjin Songjiang's defense. This position is a must-have, followed by a forward. Currently, Xue Yang is not very satisfied with the two forwards in Tianjin Songjiang. So the striker is the second most needed position, and finally the midfield. There is no problem with Tianjin Songjiang in terms of wingers, and in fact, the same goes for midfielders. But if we can have an excellent midfielder, the hope of promotion to the next season will be even greater. At that time, he will regularly submit scout reports to the club. Of course, it was ultimately Xue Yang who made the decision, after all, he was the boss behind the scenes. In the new month, Xue Yang needs to develop training programs for the players. The first training program is still, racing against time, with all 5 potential new stars selected. Then came the second training program, which also selected, advanced defense scenes, with Dong Yurong, Wang Pan, and Zhou Song selected. The last training project is different from the previous one. In the end, Xue Yang chose, precise passing, which can improve his vision, pass, and curve. Xue Yang thought for a moment and chose Zhou Song, Lu Luan, and Jiang Bin. The reason for choosing Lu Luan is that in the future, it is possible to cultivate him as an edge midfielder. It has to be said that Leo Gago is indeed excellent, and soon he submitted a scouting report. After all, time is too tight, so there are only 2 players on top. Firstly, there is a Brazilian midfielder, Leo Silva, who plays for Guaratinguetá in the Brazilian second division. As a defensive midfielder, defense is not his forte. He doesn't have much attacking ability and his running ability is relatively average. But his passing ability is good, his physical fitness is excellent, and his stamina is very abundant. Overall, it's not bad, but what interests Xue Yang is that his contract is about to expire. And there is no intention of renewing the contract, so maybe he can avoid signing in. The second player is named Mullah, a tall center who reaches a height of 1.89 meters. His passing and dribbling abilities are average, and his speed is also very slow. But as a high center forward, his heading ability and physical fitness are top-notch. And he also played football in Europe in the first 2 years, in France and Switzerland. This player caught Xue Yang's eye, and from the scout's report, it can be seen that this player is really quite good. But then one sentence made him instantly calm down. At present, there are media reports that Brazilian Serie A team Fluminense is interested in signing Mulla. That is to say, the hope for this Mulla is very slim. Sure enough, it's not easy to pick up leaks, but we still need to give it a try. You can quote in advance to see if you can create miracles. Xue Yang was still very satisfied with this scout report. Although Leo Silva may not be very eye-catching, Mulla is indeed quite good. Leo Gago is still very outstanding, and in just a short time, he found 2 players who meet the requirements. Just a week has passed, and the second scout report has arrived again. Leo Gago's work efficiency is indeed high, and this time it is still 2 players. The first one is forward Edno, a Brazilian forward who is relatively balanced in all aspects. There isn't much eye-catching about it, but it makes it more versatile. Passing, dribbling, and shooting are all considered average, and when necessary, they can also play as a left winger. Upon seeing the information about this player, Xue Yang was not very satisfied. It looks a bit mediocre, but it's still on the list of candidates. After all, given the current situation in Songjiang, Tianjin, there may not be much room for nitpicking. The next player is still a forward, but he is not Brazilian but Argentine. This player's name is Herrera and he briefly played for Real Sociedad in La Liga. Unfortunately, he was unable to establish himself in Europe and soon returned to Argentina. Later on, he joined the strong Brazilian team Grêmio, but unfortunately he was unable to establish himself in Grêmio. After being loaned to the Brazilian second division team Boa, he officially joined Boa after his contract ended. This Argentine striker has comprehensive attacking techniques, balanced feet, and good physical fitness. And it's extremely aggressive, but the problem is also very obvious, his ball control ability is average. This is a forward who needs to feed the ball, and his passing ability is also average. I can only pass the ball up close and have little ability to pass long. At present, he has scored 7 goals in the Brazilian Second Division League and 2 goals in the cup match. Xue Yang was once again tempted, and this scout report described his characteristics very well. Most Chinese teams hope to bring in players with strong personal abilities in terms of foreign aid. That's because their local players are average and it's difficult to coordinate with foreign players. For example, in the future of Dalian, Carrasco's personal abilities are simply too strong. But no teammates can cooperate with him, and Carrasco is more of a solo player. But next season Tianjin Songjiang will be different, with a few very good local players. Herrera joined the team and is not worried about no one feeding him the ball. Although Edno had previously satisfied him, he knew that the current Tianjin Songjiang probably couldn't buy him. So Herrera might be a better choice, so he thought about it and decided to use the Eye of Fire prop. He was also curious about the usefulness of this fiery-eyed golden eye, and when it was used, a picture appeared in his mind. Surprisingly, the complete information of Herrera has all its attributes, which is different from the previous lineup interface. The lineup interface can only see hexagonal attributes, but now he can even see hidden attributes. This 83-year-old Argentine forward surprisingly has a 74-point ability. It completely exceeded Xue Yang's expectations, and this ability can be used even in the Chinese Super League. In terms of attributes, it is also very good, with a speed of 80 points, a header of 80 points, a shot of 75 points, a long-range shot of 70 points, a movement of 78 points, and an aggressiveness of 81 points. But as the scouts report suggests, his dribbling ability is generally only 62 points. As for the long pass, it only has 46 points, but Xue Yang still really likes this player. And the forward position has a height of 1.81 meters, which meets Xue Yang's requirements in all aspects. He has made up his mind that Herrera will be the first signing of Tianjin Songjiang next season. Seeking collection. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter.